Taking things back to the basics, today we are talking about the all-analog HiFi Rose RA280 integrated amplifier. And this design, believe it or not, it's the more affordable entry point for the brand. That's not to say that you don't still get a very well-built and thoughtfully designed amp, because you do. And if you're like me, you may even prefer its sleeker design over the more expensive RA180. Like the RA180, the smaller, more affordable 280 utilizes Rose's GaNFET Class AD amplifier design. And this amp produces 250 watts per channel in stereo into 8 or 4 ohms, and according to Rose, marries the higher efficiency, lower distortion, and faster speeds of Class D with GaNFET, or gallium nitride field effect transistors, to improve linearity, giving the amp more of a Class A or AB-like sound, hence the use of the term Class AD. While the 280 may use newer amplifier technology inside, the rest of its features are all analog. There are no digital connections, so you won't find any DACs or digital to analog converters here. Just 4 analog audio inputs, one of which is connected to a built-in moving magnet phono preamp, plus balanced analog audio input, bringing the overall input total to 5. The 280 does have a dedicated mono subwoofer output, however, it doesn't have any internal bass management, which means you will need to set your sub's volume, crossover point, and any other adjustments on the subwoofer itself. And the streamlining of this amp even stretches down to its controls. There's an input selector, bass and treble tone controls, and volume. That's it. The 280 is a very easy amplifier to use. Even the included remote keeps things simple and limits control to power and volume. To give ourselves more time to get to know the Rose, I connected 2 different DACs to the 280. Remember, the 280 has no digital connection, so I used the Modi 3, an oldie but a goodie, as well as the Eversolo A8. The Modi was a good match sonically, and its silver chassis looked right at home next to the Rose. However, the Eversolo A8 expanded the 280's overall capability and performance and turned out to be an even better fit than the Modi 3. Since the A8 has an HDMI connection, we could watch movies and TV shows on our Sony X90L and stream music using the A8's built-in streaming. The A8 also let me test the 280's balanced and unbalanced connections. If the Rose is on anyone's shortlist, when it comes to speaker pairings, I doubt you have much to worry about. The RA280 has 250 watts of power per channel on tap and has no issues driving any of the speakers we tested. Not even the power-hungry Radiant Acoustics Clarity 6.2 put up a fight. The same was true of the MoFi SourcePoint 888s we just reviewed, and of course our reference SVS Titans. Both sounded great on the Rose. I briefly tested the 280 subwoofer output using the SVS SB17. Not much to report here since the Rose lacks bass management. It worked as expected. Ultimately, your experience will likely come down to how comfortable you are at setting up your subwoofer and whether or not it has the requisite controls to let you dial in its performance. When it comes to amplifier design, typically I'm more team Class A or AB. Most Class D amps sound just a little too perfect for my taste. In contrast, Class A or AB, again, this is my opinion, deliver the detail you want to hear without sacrificing a more natural sound. You still get accurate bass and mid-bass weight without sounding overly detailed or artificial. While the 280 didn't quite pull off any magic tricks to make me think that I was listening to anything but a Class D amp, the HiFi Rose is an excellent example of Class D done right. The 280's tonality is more or less textbook neutral. I wouldn't say there's as much, if any, low bass or mid-range bloom when comparing the HiFi Rose to, say, Yamaha's 2000A, but it also doesn't become lean or more brittle up top when you increase the volume either, something I noted when we reviewed the Eversolo Amp F2. From top to bottom, the Rose is nicely composed, and its power delivery is very linear and consistent regardless of your speaker's load or volume, which is precisely what you want in an amplifier. So despite having tone controls, the 280 itself doesn't act like a tone control by injecting any sort of sound of its own into the mix. If you want an amplifier that's going to color or alter the sound of your system, like say an old school tube amp will, the 280 likely isn't going to be for you. So if the 280 doesn't change the sound of your system, more specifically your speakers, what should you anticipate when switching from say a traditional Class AB amp like the Yamaha 2000A to the HiFi Rose? In my experience, the HiFi Rose stands out from the competition due to its excellent spatial separation and precise rendering of intricate details. For example, take the songs December by Collective Soul and the entire Tori Amos Legs and Boots live album, both of which are going to highlight characteristics like instrument separation, subtle and grand dynamic shifts, and an overall sense of speed. The HiFi Rose 280 delivered a cleaner, more resolving, and more defined sound directly compared to the Yamaha 2000A. To be clear, I am not suggesting that the Yamaha sounds bad. It is a great amp, but it does have a slightly softer bass response compared to the 280. The impact of hard dynamic shifts, particularly kick drums, lacked the immediacy that the 280 delivers. When listening to Tori's Cornflake Girl, there was just a better focus in the bass on up through the treble, and artists had a clear sense of distance between them when played back through the Rose. In terms of soundstage depth and width, there was little difference between the 280 and other comparable amplifiers like the Yamaha and even the Marantz Model M1 when not in its virtual mode. However, compared to the other amps we tested, the separation of the artists was just noticeably sharper with the Rose. Furthermore, the 280 demonstrated an impressive ability to just scale without any strain, which left me little to complain about regarding its sonic performance. In fact, I found the 280 to be more intelligible at all volumes, let alone lower volumes, than nearly any other amplifier we had at or near its price. The 280, it might be lacking in features, but it has two key highlights. First, it offers simple and effective tone controls that can be very easily bypassed using a toggle switch on the front. Perfect for those of you who want a more straightforward signal path. The tone controls, whether on or off, do not increase the 280's idle noise floor or gain. Even at their default setting of 0, they do not negatively affect the sound quality. The tone controls work effectively, and the changes are noticeable once you start to adjust the bass or treble by more than 1 or 2 dB. I would have liked to have seen the inclusion of a balance adjustment. I think balance can help maintain a more proper center image in more challenging environments. And the RA180 has balance controls, so I'm really kind of confused why it's missing on the 280. The 280's built-in phono preamp isn't as robust or as adjustable as the one found on the costlier RA180, which I totally get. I mean, you have to save something for the more expensive model. That said, for a $3,000 integrated, the built-in phono preamp is just okay. For starters, and this will likely vary a little from setup to setup, but the built-in phono stage is not completely silent. And even at idle, with the volume control set to roughly 9 o'clock, the otherwise silent amp produces an audible hiss when its phono input is selected. In contrast, the noise floor of the phono preamp that's built into my Cambridge Audio Alva TT-V2, which is also the turntable I use to A/B test the preamp inside the 280, is quieter than the one inside the HiFi Rose. That said, while the Alva's built-in preamp proved to have a bit more gain and dynamic punch, similar to my experience listening to streaming music, there was a slightly greater sense of separation when relying on the HiFi Rose's internal phono preamp. So, if you're new to vinyl, or maybe you have a table that is more or less in line financially with the 280's asking price, by all means, use the phono preamp inside the Rose. But if you're further along in your vinyl playback journey, you may not be as wowed by the 280's built-in phono pre. Getting into amp comparisons, at roughly $3,000, the Rose is up against two pretty great feature-rich integrated amplifiers, Yamaha's 1000A and 2000A. Both Yamahas offer digital connectivity, built-in DACs, HDMI support, and they even offer more analog audio support too, including built-in phono preamps, dedicated preamp outputs, and a subwoofer out. Throw in bass management, room correction, streaming music support through the Yamaha app, and it is a no-brainer, which is best in terms of value for money. But for the purist and separates everything crowd, I can actually see the Rose getting the win here, especially since it offers more power with very good sound quality. As for me, I found the Rose to be the more confident and controlled amp, even when compared to the costlier 2000A, but I will admit that both Yamaha amps fit better into my daily lifestyle. For the same price, I would heavily consider ROTEL's new 5000 streaming amplifier. While it doesn't have a built-in PHONO preamp, the 5000 makes up for it with digital connectivity, including HDMI, not to mention streaming music support. All things you're going to have to spend extra on if you go with the 280. As for sound quality, the ROTEL is every bit as refined, controlled, and frankly, it's as good as the HiFi Rose. So in this head-to-head, I'd go with the ROTEL, even if the look and build quality of the HiFi Rose is a bit more unique. And while neither Technics SUG700 nor the GX70 is as powerful as the HiFi Rose, I'm not sure you would notice, or at least not while listening at everyday volumes. Like the Rose, both Technics amps have a neutral, clean, clear sound that pairs well with damn near any loudspeaker. Except with the GX70, which costs less than the Rose, you get more features and connectivity. Both Technics amps are well built and have a striking visual design. The G700 even gives you meters, so it may come down to your preference and just design style. I'd likely side with Technics on this one, but I'm also not averse to all-in-ones. And compared to its more complicated and costlier sibling, the RA180, I prefer the 280. Its ease of use is refreshing, and saving a little money is always welcome. While I was initially wowed by the over-the-top styling of the 180, taking a slightly more minimal approach was a great decision. Will the Rose win any awards for features? No, it won't. But where it counts, it ranks among the better high-powered Class D amps that I've heard. I really like it. So that is it. That is now my take on HiFi Rose's RA280 integrated amplifier. What do you guys think? What do you guys think? Sound off down in the comments below. And if I missed something or there's a comparison that you're really on the fence about, you know what to do. Leave it down in the comments because you never know. Could end up in next week's Unplugged where we find out if Christy liked the HiFi Rose at all. But until then, remember, the only person who has to like the sound of your system is you. So happy listening, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you on the next video. Bye.